Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome at the English news program here at Ora News. And now, tonight's news. The former Director of Treasury, Dorian Ciolacu, charged with power abuse regarding the scandal of the grand theft of 713 million lek in the Central Bank of Albania, surrendered today to the police. His decision was expected since yesterday evening the General Prosecutor issued a restraining order for the former Director of the Department of Printing Money in the State Treasury in Linz. So far, the number of people detained and suspected to be involved in the theft of the central bank has gone to 10. Through a press release, the prosecution of Tirana notified that it has issued a warrant for the detention of citizen Dorian Ciolacu. Mr. Ciolacu has held the post of the director of the so-called Department X of the Bank of Albania until the 31st of July 2014. This person is charged by the prosecution for duty abuse. The prohibition order has been issued following the investigation being conducted on the theft of a large amount of money in the Bank of Albania. According to preliminary investigative results that the citizen Dorian Ciolacu, based on a decision of the Supervisory Council, Mr. Ciolacu was tasked to undertake initiatives for issuing regulations, relevant regulations, and guidelines for the functioning of the department he headed. Despite that, the investigations showed that since the 1st of January 2013 until March 2014, this person has taken no such initiative, thereby creating opportunities for abuse, opportunities which led to the theft of $7.1 million. About 2 weeks after the theft of a large amount of money in the Bank of Albania became public and civil protests emerged, the Council of Ministers reacted today for the first time. During a press release, the government considered the theft of the treasure a serious criminal act and urged the prosecution to do its job so that such an incident will never happen again. The Council of Ministers had a response to the civil protests seeking the dismissal of the central bank governor Ardian Fullani. And the statement was quoted that the government urged the need to punish those responsible in this grave act. The press release stated that the government of Albania understands the public concern about the serious incident at the Bank of Albania. The government shares this legitimate concern and urges all responsible institutions to take measures towards those involved in this crime. The Association of Albanian Banks informed the citizens that despite the theft in the central bank, the activity of commercial bank continues normally. We ensure the public, and especially the customers of commercial banks in the country, that the activity of these banks continues normally. The irregularities of the central bank do not affect the operational activities or the cash supply of second-level banks. Despite the serious event, the financial system has taken all the necessary measures to ensure the normal activity for the supply with liquidity to the interbank market, while the commercial banks are always committed to strictly complying with the regulatory framework and taking the necessary measures to protect the system, stated the Association of Albanian Banks. Furthermore, the statement said that all second-level banks, which are members of this association, ensure their clients for a smooth functioning of their departments, as well as the maximum commitment to the community of the systems and their activities in order to ensure investments and deposits. The jewelry store named Sinanaj was robbed today this morning for the third time in less than 5 years. Two masked men and armed men traveling in a motorbike without license plates entered in the jewelry store and robbed a number of valuable items and money. So far, sources have confirmed that the amount of money and the value of stolen items goes to about €50,000. The owner of this business tried to stop the perpetrators, but one of them hit her using his gun, and then both thieves managed to get away with 2 bags filled with jewelries and money. The owner of this business was later sent to the hospital to get the necessary treatment. A few years ago, after a robbery attempt, the father of the current owner, Rapo Sinanaj, was shot dead. He was executed by Victor Gusha, who was considered to be the serial robber of banks and other businesses. Furthermore, this jewelry store was attacked even a year ago. The police decided to take the security cameras and are now hoping to get useful information about the identity of perpetrators. During the robbery, there have been a lot of eyewitnesses, since the area of Silvia, where the jewelry store is located, is very populated. A 40-year-old man was found dead today in the village of Sopot in Tropoia. It is made known that the victim is Shpătim Sinani, who was executed with a firearm. The police of Tropoia informed that an investigation is currently underway in order to apprehend the perpetrator. So far, the police have identified the perpetrator of this murder, who resulted to be a person with previous criminal records. He was earlier charged with theft and is currently wanted from the police of Kosovo. The police forces of Tropoia did not make public his identity, but they stated that he is a very dangerous person and that they are using all necessary means to apprehend him as soon as possible. The leader of the Democratic Party and also the mayor of Tirana, Lulzim Basha, considered the decision of the government to obtain personal data of each mobile phone as an unprecedented act. The head of the opposition urged the people to reject this authoritarian decision, which, according to Basha, intends to blackmail all Albanians. They want to spy whoever they want without giving further explanations. In April, the European Court made a decision and said to the mobile phone companies that they will be punished if they give this kind of data to the government. On its part, our government says that it will punish the companies if they do not provide the data, and they say that they will fine the citizens if they do not give this data. This is a direct threat to the freedom of Albanians in these last 23 years, and these actions are being ordered by a man who brought crime and criminals inside the parliament, stated the head of the Democratic Party, Lulzim Basha. During his speech, the leader of the opposition also mentioned the decision of the government to close a number of private universities, since, according to Basha, these actions intend to hide corruption and personal interests. The result of the control were the same as the government and the Prime Minister wanted. The education system is being reformed by a man who does not like education, such as our Prime Minister. Nowadays, all those unskilled are being elected to judge those who are properly qualified. At a moment when the educational system expected the support of policy, came the violent hand of retaliation and ignorance. This is a project that is based on corruption and personal interest, and therefore it should not be allowed to succeed, added the head of the Democratic Party and also the mayor of Tirana, Lulzim Basha. The statements of the leader of the opposition were made while he was participating in the electoral assemblies of Units 12, 14 and 15 of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party has once again expressed its concerns regarding the agreement between CES and the Socialist Party. According to the Democratic Party, the state attorney has been excluded from this agreement. In a media outlet from the headquarters of the Democratic Party, Deputy Florian Mima said the damage that this agreement caused this deal was made without the presence of the state attorney. The public opinion is now aware that the lawyer hired by the Albanian state in October 2012 was excluded from the process of negotiations held between the government of Rama and the Czech company. The results of the so-called negotiations are already known to all Albanians, said Deputy of the Democratic Party, Florian Mima. According to him, this lawyer is forced to declare that he is not responsible for the negotiations of the agreement, since they were taken without his presence. In the document of the 31st of December 2012, which is actually the main guide for steps to be taken, drafted by the lawyer, it is said that CES is the only one responsible for the failure of privatization. The lawyer suggests the government to collect the necessary evidences which show off illegal actions of CES. Our lawyer is obligated to state that he is not responsible for the agreement, since the negotiations have been made without his presence, added the member of the opposition, Florian Mima. Mima also accused the socialist government that has given 500 million euros of unpaid bills to ČEZ, and they have as well caused a damage of $3 billion to the state budget. The results of the so-called negotiations are already known to all Albanians. The socialist government has given away about 500 million euros of unpaid bills to ČEZ, to the Albanian state, and it has caused a damage of $3 billion, which unfortunately will be paid from the Albanian citizens. Furthermore, the government of Rama will pay to ČEZ 95 million euros, which could and should have been used to strengthen the sector of energy. Every Albanian will have to pay 1.1 million lek in order to comply with the agreement of this government and fill the pockets of the Czech company, concluded Mima. The Democratic Party has once again continued its accusations against Prime Minister Edi Rama, saying that he has incriminated the parliament with his silence for 27 days. In a media outlet from the headquarters of the Democratic Party, the party's coordinator, Edvin Saljani, accused Prime Minister Rama of bringing inside the parliament people convicted of prostitution traffic. For 27 days, everyone knows that Edi Rama has incriminated the parliament. It is publicly proved that he has promoted and brought a convicted person for prostitution traffic and kidnapping to the most important institution of the Republic, stated Saljani. Referring to the socialist deputy, Arben Doka, Saljani called him a tool of Prime Minister Edi Rama to silence the opposition. The Democratic Party also says that with these deputies that the majority has, Rama seeks to grab the justice institutions. It is now confirmed that deputies such as Arben Doka are tools of Edi Rama that he uses to threaten the opposition in an attempt to silence the Democratic Party. These facts are already known from everyone, and he who has commanded these acts, he who has signed and sealed the mandate of people with criminal records, now pretends that knows nothing. Edi Rama, his deputies, and this entire majority have implemented the scheme which intends to grab each institution of justice. Nothing more is expected than the criminalization of each local office that Rama has taken and is taking under his control, said the coordinator of the Democratic Party, Ervin Saljani. The Minister of Education and Sports, Lindita Nicola, met today with a high number of students with whom she talked about the reforms in higher education, which according to her has already begun with the removal of the road on parts, referring to the suspension of licenses of some private universities. The minister gave assurance to the students that this was the most urgent phase in terms of education reform, while she promised that it is a transparent and comprehensive reform. We made a step forward for education. We removed the road on parts. Chaos and abuses prevailed, and you would be taught by professors who have completely only the bachelor. You would be presented every day in auditoriums, but other students who do not come in the lessons would take the diplomas as well. The reform will be discussed with you, with the civil society, and with every group of interest. This reform is comprehensive and transparent, stated Minister of Education and Sports, Lindita Nicola. The minister further assured that the government has not reduced the quotas this year, and that it is not true that 11,000 students will not enter to university this year. The truth is very simple. It is a lie to say we closed the doors of universities for 11,000 high school students. Last year, there were more places, but the demands of the universities were less. This year, we consulted with universities, and they demanded 22,000 quotas. We have given only 2,000 and 1,800 places less than the requirements of universities. We received congratulations from the leaders of universities, added Minister Nicola. She emphasized that the reforms in higher education aim to restore quality in auditoriums. While talking about school fees, the minister admitted that they have suffered a small increase. There is a fee increase, but it is less than what the universities requested. The largest increase in the fees of universities is 70,000 old lek a year, and that is much less than what the universities requested, added the Minister of Education and Sports, Lindita Nicola. Speaking for the students of universities whose work has been suspended, the minister said that they could continue their studies in public universities. The alarm for Ebola virus has already affected Albania, given the fact that it is a deadly virus for which no cure has yet been found. Even though no one in our country appears to have been affected by the virus, it is learned that the Ministry of Health has initiated the strengthening of measures at the country's airport. The Chief Inspector of Health, Eltar Deda, informs that the Ministry of Health has started collaboration with the Customs Police and Alpcontrol to control the passengers coming from the affected areas. In Albania, there is not any case affected with the virus Ebola, but our controls are aimed at prevention. If there will be any case of the virus in Albania, we will isolate it, he said. Deda further recommended Albanian citizens to avoid to travel to affected areas and assured them that there is no room for panic. During inspection at the airport, copies of the promotional material and guides with risks and measures to be taken for protection from infectious disease spread by virus Ebola were distributed. The World Health Organization informs for the extent of disease caused by the virus Ebola in some African countries. Specifically, from March 2014 until now, 1,323 cases of suspected and confirmed are reported and 729 deaths from Ebola in Guinea, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Nigeria. Hemorrhagic fever, Ebola, are caused by a virus with the potential of spread from person to person and with a level of fatality up to 90%. The virus causes high fever and sore throat, and later diarrhea and internal and external bleeding. The employees of the hydropower plant in Qaf Molla, residents of Mirdita and trade unionists, have continued their protest for the removal of the Turkish company that is performing the workings for the hydropower plant. Today's protest was held in downtown of Roshen. The protesters have demanded that those responsible for the death of 3 employees to be brought to justice. They said that despite the denunciations made for the work conditions, the state has not yet taken any measures. According to them, there is no security provided in the gallery of the hydropower plant. The death of 2 Albanian workers, Duaj Legisi and Pjetër Dogda, and the Turkish citizen Hasan Atef caused civil reports. Protests continue for several days. The head of the Confederation of Trade Unions in Albania, Kol Nikola, stated that he has contacted with government leaders and that tomorrow he expects a response from the Prime Minister. According to him, Albanian workers in the Turkish firm are being discriminated. The Democratic Party of Kosovo does not rule out the possibility of fresh elections in the country in order for the country to resolve the institutional deadlock. This was said by the vice chairman of this party, Adem Grabovci, adding that the PDK is convinced that the citizens will once again vote them to govern the country. Of course, this possibility is not ruled out. Every time the opposition has demanded elections, PDK has granted its wish. We do not fear the citizens of the country. We're ready to do it whatever we're asked to face the citizens. I'm sure that every time we will hold elections, the citizens of Kosovo will vote for us, said Grabovci. Grabovci even said that it's absurd to form a government without PDK, a party which won the highest percentage of votes in the general elections held on June 8th. Leader of LDK, Isa Mustafa, has reacted to Grabovci's declaration by considering him a speculator. Mustafa said that speculators of PDK coalition can go on talking about votes, but the bloc consisting of LDK, AAK, Incentive showed that it has the support of 83 members of the parliament. There can be no winner with 37 seats in a 120 seats parliament, said Mustafa. According to him, the winner is the one who receives supports from the majority of members of the parliament, who is an exclusive way to determine the majority of votes won during the elections, over 50%. Time will not help Thaçi's government, but it will overthrow this anti-constitutional government, said Mustafa. Meanwhile, Vice Chairman of AAK, Ardian Gjini, has advised former head of PDK parliamentary group to forget the comprehensive government and fresh elections. He believes that the next government will be formed by the post-election coalition between LDK, AAK, and Incentive. I don't understand why they have undertaken such absurd offensive. Forget the comprehensive government and the elections. The ruling of the Constitutional Court will be followed by the formation of the new government, while PDK will be a very constructive opposition. It would be absurd and a great sin for the country if the next government has PDK in it, declared Gjini. A few days ago, the Democratic Party of Kosovo launched the idea of the formation of a comprehensive government, but this was refused by the opposition bloc and public opinion in Kosovo. Fresh floods has once again hit Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Croatia, adding to the misery generated from the first devastating floods in May. More floods have hit the Western Balkans in what is shaping up to be worst year in memory in terms of appalling weather. One man was reporting to have drowned in Banja Koviljaca in Serbia in the basement of his home on Tuesday, the Serbian daily newspaper Blitz reported. Many other homes, buildings, and streets were flooded in the Loznica area of western Serbia. Extremely poor weather in central and west Serbia brought heavy rain to Kragujevac, Čačak, Ivanjica, and Priboj, while landslides were said to be active around Mali Zvornik in the west. A red weather alert has been issued for central Serbia ahead of expected heavy rain on August 6, while an orange alert has been issued for parts of eastern and northern Bosnia, where heavy rains and winds are also expected. In Bosnia, the situation was worst in the northern Tuzla region and around Zenica, Doboj, Banja Luka, and Zvornik, where local rivers have burst and flooded dozens of houses. Reports said that in the area of town of Lukavac, near Tuzla, around 100 houses were flooded and that landslides have been recorded. Many local roads were also blocked. Floods have also hit Banja Luka in the northwest of Serbia, where many roads were blocked. The city has proclaimed a local state of emergency. The city's civil protection unit has issued a warning that the rivers of Vrbas and Vrbanja could overflow, while some streets are already submerged. In Croatia, bad weather has hit the Sirac and Daruvar areas in the north of country. Many houses have also been flooded in the areas of Karlovac, Sisak, and the west. The latest heavy rain in the region, highly unusual for midsummer, comes after devastating flood hits in the Western Balkan in May. Hundreds of thousands of devastating floods hit the Western Balkan in May. Hundreds of thousands of homes and other buildings were also damaged. Bosnia and Serbia have counted the bill in terms of billions of euros and say it will take years to recover from the disaster. Reconstruction had hardly started when the fresh floods hit the region once again. The opposition has accused the chief prosecutor of turning a blind eye to corruption after his office said claims that the police minister received each donation on behalf of her VMRO-DPNE party will not be probed. Macedonia's opposition Social Democratic Party, SDSM, has accused Chief Prosecutor Markos Verlavski of deliberately choosing a national holiday to let slip that the police minister will be not investigated for corruption. The announcement emerged over the August 2nd holiday of Saint Elijah, Ilinden in Macedonia, when Macedonia celebrates one of its biggest national vacations. In May, the SDSM filed corruption charges against Police Minister Gordana Jankulovska on 2 criminal accounts of misuse of office and on tax evasion. The SDSM says she legally accepted a cash donation of €80,000 for her party in 2006. The prosecution said there was no evidence of a crime because in 2006, when she alleged crime took place, she was the party's Secretary General and thus not in charge of financial transactions. In order for a criminal act, misuse in office, to exist, the culprit has to be an official who has authorization within the legal subject, the political party trusted to him by law of regulation. Yankulovska at that time, for this particular act, did not have the legal status, the prosecution office said. It also refused to further investigate the second allegation of tax evasion because it said there is no evidence that money was received and illegally retained by Yankulovska, and thus charges of evasion in paying taxes were irrelevant. The opposition insists that the prosecution was influenced by the ruling party and failed to examine all the presented evidence. Is any official in any party allowed to take 80,000 euros in cash? In a speedy procedure, Zverlevsky discards our evidence in the form of cash received with a VMRO, DPNE stamp and a signature on it, without an examination that could have confirmed for sure whether it is Yankulovsky's signature and without examining the whiskers, the vice president said. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the English news edition prepared for today. Have a great evening. See you tomorrow. Good night.